Hey, Electric Ed here, Matter Guitar Products. This is the video demo for installation of the Terminator EVO system. So we have Terminator EVO system. I'm Matter Guitar Products. We have a set of DiMarzio Evolution pickups. And we have a pickguard. Tools we'd recommend: wire strippers, screwdriver, open end wrench. We have a reamer here. You may have to open up the holes in the pickguard. So we'll talk about that here in a second. So you need a reamer or a 3/8 drill bit for a clearance, 3/8 drill hole clearance for the bushing on a push-pull pot. So anyways, you can get these at any hardware store. They run anywhere from $10 to $15. Great tool, I recommend you having it. And actually, I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. So first thing we want to do before we start installing any components in here, we want to make sure that everything is going to fit, okay? I'm pretty certain we're not going to have any issues with the pickups, but we'll go over that. The main issue we may have is fitting the pots into the clearance holes on the pickguard. So this one, they look like they're already clearance for 3/8 holes, okay? So I don't think we're gonna have any issue, but I wanna go over that anyways. So anyways, let's first open up our Terminator EVO system. When you open it up, you'll find in here, first of all, on the top, you'll find our sticker, our card, and then we have the ground terminal jumpers. I'm just going to pull those out right now. We got any jumper wires with your system will be in here, as well as capacitors. Although the Terminator EVO, we already installed the capacitors on the system, but every other system you also find the tone caps. You want to take those out. And probably the most important component is the little ass screwdriver right here. This is to be used on the terminals. It's small, it's little, it's 2mm head on here, and we do this on purpose because we don't want you really torquing down perfect size. You just want to get it tight to hold the wire in there. That's all you really need to do. We also have a couple guitar picks in there for you. So let's put this aside. Then we have over here inside, we got the output jack. For this system, we got it with the barrel jacks. This is going to be for an Ibanez guitar. Most Ibanez guitars have barrel jacks. Some of them have standard ones. On the website, we kind of go over the difference between standard and barrel jacks. Most guitars have standard jack. We have our killer tone pot. With the EVO system, we already put the capacitor attached to it. As I mentioned earlier, 22 microfarad. This is our proprietary dual value CTS pot, 500K on the bottom, 250K on the top. The red terminals are 500K, the blue terminals are 250K, the black terminal is ground. All our systems, all the black terminals are always going to be a ground terminal. Our bushing diameter, we went with the 8mm diameter bushing on here. We did that on purpose so that way it can fit in any guitar without any issues. You don't have to do any modifications. The shaft here, the diameter where your knob fits on, the shaft there, is typically 6mm on most, but we want with the 1/4 inch. And the reason why is two reasons why. Because we like this old school, just like the original ones from the 1950s. It's got 24 teeth, so it's a little bit thicker. Plus, when you use barrel knobs on here, it'll fit a lot more snug than, let's say, the metric 6mm one. Plus, when you put a barrel knob in here, you can just screw the set screw right in the gap there, and it'll tighten on there. And you won't have the wobble that you normally have when you have a barrel knob put on one of these split shafts. So this is 12mm deep bushing. Can pretty much fit in almost any guitar. Carved top. Fits good here on pick guards. So anyways, that's our killer tone pot. Our goes to 11 volume pot. We use the same pot, but obviously the terminal's wired up for a volume instead of a tone. Here is the EVO system push-pull pot. So it's just like what we have on Steve's guitar. It's a Bourne's push-pull pot, 3/8 diameter. So all of our push-pull pots are 3/8 diameter. So with guitars manufactured outside of the U.S. That use metric, they're going to have an 8mm diameter clearance hole, and pretty much anything in the U.S. is going to have 3/8. This bushing is also 3/8 long. So with our push-pull pots, for pick guards, you want to go with the 3/8 long. Or if you have a carved top, it's thicker, you want to go with the 3/4 inch long bushing. So, and then we have our HSH switch for Terminator EVO. So what this switch does, we got the terminal on here. You put your pickups, get wired to here. And then when you got position 1, it's the bridge. Position 2, it automatically, with the HSH switch, it automatically splits the respective humbucker in positions 2 and 4. And that's why the HSH switch is different than the 5S switch. And I'll pull out the instructions. Move the box out of the way. So here we have our instructions. And we'll be using this for a guide, and take the time to read through everything. Here is a map. It kind of shows what the lugs are in each one of the pots. We have this with every single one of our instructions. We also have a terminal map too, so you can see what the terminals are at each one. Like here's the bridge house 1, the center tap for coil splitting, middle, and so on and so forth. So that way you know exactly what these terminals do by reading these maps. So on the back, we have just some overview here that I highly recommend you take a look at. Like I said, the first thing we want to do, we want to make sure before we start mounting all the components into the pick guard, let's make sure that all the components are going to fit. That is going to be the first thing. So, and the one thing, like I mentioned before, on your guitar, this might not fit because it's a 3/8, and if your guitar is made in Asia or China or Indonesia or Japan, you're not going to have a problem. You might have to open this up. So I'm going to what I'm taking out here right now is there's like a foil back here. So shielding, and if yours doesn't have it, I highly recommend you shielding the back of this for sure, and even the inside of your guitar. I mean, shielding is so important. It really eliminates a lot of hum. So I think we're going to be good here. It does clear. Well, let's go over. Let's say you go to push yours in and it doesn't clear. Well, this is what we have the reamer for. If you don't have a reamer, you can go buy, if you have a drill, carefully by hand, take the drill, put it in here and just carefully, but reamer is the best way to go because it fits in there good. And when you twist it, you're taking off just a little bit at a time. You're not doing too much. You don't have to worry about doing too much. And probably the most important thing is always go from the finish side in. The reason why, with a reamer, it's going to be very good. You won't have any chipping at all. But if you go from the outside, like inside the control cavity out, you might have some blowout. And especially if you're using a drill, you're going to just chip the crap right out of all this as the drill comes through. So you definitely always go from the finished side in towards the control cavity. I think the reamer is the best tool. Like I said, you could use a drill. If I was going to use a drill on a pick guard, I would probably take it by hand and lightly, be careful not to cut yourself because drills can be sharp sometimes. You might want to wear a glove or something. Just carefully go over the edge because going from 8mm, going from here to here, it's not a lot, You only got about a 1/16 of an inch or so, about a 1/16 of an inch off both sides, and boom, you're going to be there. So it's not going to be much. So that's why I just take a screwdriver or a drill bit if I don't have a reamer and just kind of carefully, work it through there. If you have a wood guitar that's like a nice maple or whatever, you want to be careful. So you just kind of go through. But the reamer is definitely the best tool, and I highly recommend it. So that is the first thing. So we know our pots are going to work all right. No problem there. Let's try fitting the switch to make sure there's no issues there. So we send our switch with the switch tip on it. You have your choice of color when you order. You just go to the drop-down menu and pick it out. We also send them with these screws here. These are just like little starter screws, just to get you taken care of, because this is also the other thing was some of the Ibanez's and some of the ESPs and guitars made in Europe use a 440 thread screw, which is a smaller hole here, okay? These are 632. So you want to make sure of the clearance. We're not going to have an issue here with these at all. Not a problem at all. But your guitar, you may find these a little bit small. Once again, just take an, well, like I said before, with like the reamer, you could do that. Just kind of go through it a little bit, carefully open them up. Or if you got like a little drill, just once again, I would just by hand with a pickguard. So like I said, when we're installing the switch, we want to make sure the metal side's down. So I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to hold it over there. I can kind of see the holes really line up. Yeah, I think it's going to line up real good. Screws are going just fine. So we're good there. So we're pretty certain the switch is going to mount all right. The pots are going to mount fine. So I think right now, what we need to do is just, let's start mounting the pickups in. So we're going to start with the neck pickup. Now, one thing about these pickups is they send them with screws, but if you got like gold, we want to do this in gold, so they just send nickel. I actually hunted around and guess what I found? Some gold screws. So I'm going to use gold screws on these and not use the nickel ones. So since I have this out, I just want to make sure we're going to clear. Yeah, we're going to have no issues with that one at all. Boom. Yeah, those pickups are going to fit in there. Plenty of clearance. So I'm going to set that aside. Open up our... I already opened this one up earlier. So we're going to pull up this one, make sure this one clears. Yeah, it'll work fine. So once again, they send them with the silver screws. I found some gold screws. And actually these gold screws, now these are 632s. So what I found 4 of them. These are from All Parts. So what's nice about these, I'm also going to use them not only for the pickup, but I'm also going to use them for the switch. Because the switch is a 632 and the coil is a 632, so it works out nice. Okay, so one thing when you open these up, sometimes you get these mammoth springs that are like, a foot long. And, these are, you got a little bit, so you got quite a bit there. But my screws are a little shorter than what the original ones are, okay? It's not a big deal. It's only about, I don't know, about 3/16 of an inch shorter. But these springs are going to be a pain to try to compress them all the way up. So what I do is I don't even try to do that. So I'm going to take, I got some side cutters here. You can just try to find some, you might just have a shorter spring. I'm just going to take it here, these side cutters, snip it off. Now I got a shorter spring. It's going to be a lot easier to install these. So I'm going to put the screw through the top. So DiMarzio, you see I got it pointed, you can see that or not. This says DiMarzio Pickups, made in USA. I got it facing towards the bridge. So if you're holding a pickguard this way, you can see it. Like I said, this is a tricky part. So you got to really, how many times you've done this and springs go flying across the room and stuff like that. I think Stu Mac does. I'm going to turn this one around. So the flat part, not the cup part I had on there. Well, so I like to, so I got my thumb here, pushing, get this wire out of here. Push it down, kind of line it up there. There we go. Actually, I'm going to be able to get my hand on here and why to get this. Just got to do is just get it started. Get the screwdriver. There we go. So I got that one through. Woohoo! All right. So that's how you do it. It's never easy. It may take you a few times to try it. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this one up. So let's put this one on. So the springs came in, there we go. Sometimes they get a little tangled up there. So there's a tapered on this one. They also have the rubber ones. Actually, I'm gonna go this way on this one, yeah. I always prepare see when they're tapered like this, the springs are bigger, smaller. I always put the bigger end towards the pickguard and the smaller end towards the pickup. I don't know if there's any real set way, but that's just how I do it. You can do it however you want. Nobody really cares. Nobody's gonna see it. Nobody's gonna affect the way it works at all. All right, got this one started. Put the other one in. I'll put the other humbucker in. All right, so we got the pickups installed. Sometimes this might be this could be the hardest part of the whole process, I'll tell you. So dealing with these springs is such a pain on these humbuckers. Anyways, I have this hooked up. So you see the DiMarzio USA on the neck pickup is facing down. On this way is facing the other way. And the reason why is you see the cable comes out up at the top here and comes out the bottom here on the bridge. So the neck goes up, bridge comes down, obviously the middle, down the middle. So, and the reason why you do that, that's the way it is on EVO as well. Typically, on a pickup, this will be the screw and this will be the slug coil. This will be the screw and this will be the slug coil. With double screw coils, you can really you can change your orientation as you like. One thing I didn't mention before is when I took the pickups out of the case, out of their packaging, you'll find an Allen wrench kind of stuck to the back. This is for if you want to adjust these pull pieces here. We're not going to touch them, but that's what that's for. One thing I like about double screw coils, traditionally if you split the pickup, which you're going to find like on this bridge pickup, this is going to be the hot coil. This one will be the dead coil. But let's say if you wanted this to be the hot coil and this one to be the dead coil, just rotate it 180 degrees. That's all you have to do. Nobody's going to know the difference because it's a screw coil. So that's one thing nice about double screw coils like this. So anyways, I think we're ready to start installing more components. So this could be the biggest pain is these wires because they're just all kind of everywhere. So I just want to get them out of the way. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take painter's tape, some glue, especially working a control cavity. This is definitely something you need to have around. I should have mentioned that earlier when I was saying tools you'd need. I'm just going to take all these together and just tape them together just to keep them out of the way. Sometimes just having a clean work area just by doing something as simple as that makes it so much easier. And that way it just clears this whole space up. They're out of the way. We don't have to worry about it. You don't have blue painter's tape, any kind of tape really. You know, just it's just something you can get off easily. I would recommend not using like invisible stuff because that stuff's kind of hard to get off sometimes. But so next thing we want to do is we want to do our switch. So our switch, like I mentioned before, the spring side, middle side goes down. This is going to go against the cavity wall. If you point it this way, you're going to have a couple issues. One, it's going to work in reverse, and two, the cavity wall is going to be real close here. And if you get too close to these contacts, you might have noise issues, you might have shorting issues. So it's definitely want to make sure you put it in the right way. So let's put it there. As I mentioned before, I brought in some gold screws that I'm going to use. Put through there. Just get them started by hand. Never tighten down the screw all the way until you get the other one started. That way you make sure all the holes line up good. Because you tighten it down and then you find the other one doesn't go in and you try to force it in, you could possibly cross thread it. So that one's going good. Looks like I'm not pinching any wires or anything. Looks good. So let's tighten those down. We got the switches on there. Switch tip is on. Now one thing I'm not going to do right now is you see how on this system here, when you put the volume pot in, it's right in front of these terminals. This terminal here is. So it makes it a little cumbersome to hook up the pickups. So right now, I'm not gonna install this yet. I'm gonna leave this out, but I'm gonna do the tone pot. And we'll wire the pickups in first, and then we'll put the volume pot in. So we're doing a little bit differently. If the volume pot was over here, like on a Strat, and the switch would actually be further this way, and this would be all open, and the Strat volume pot would be over here, then I would probably install the components first. But in this case, it's going to be just too cumbersome to try to wire this terminal with this here. So what I like to do is I kind of estimate. So you got two nuts here. You got a nut, you have a lock washer, then we're going to have the pick guard, then we're going to have a flat washer, and then the nut. So you try to estimate the thickness of the guard and how much you're going to come through. So, and then how much you're going to need for. See if you can get this where you can see it. Now looking at it right now, it looks like I'm not going to have enough room on there right now for the nut as well as this washer. So it looks like I need to back up the nut a little bit, give me a little bit more room. That looks better. Yeah, let's try that. Yeah, we're just looking good there. So you want it to where there's hardly any threads there. You want to be able to get the nut over all of it, but you don't want a lot of threads because otherwise your knobs will be sticking out too high. So I'm just going to snug this up a little bit. I got my adjustable opener wrench. Just a tad bit. Make sure I'm kind of come over this way, kind of turn it. I'm going to turn it towards pointing towards the switch a little bit. That looks good. I'm going to hold it and tighten. Not too tight. See, I'm choked up on it, so I'm not really wrenching down on it. Just kind of get it, you know, it's not really, you just gotta get it nice tight. If you got the lock washer on here, you got a flat washer, two nuts, you can press it again. You don't need to really go down too, you know, tighten it too tight. It's just not gonna, doesn't make sense to do that. So I think now we can start wiring up our pickups. So the first one here is the bridge pickup. Tear off our blue tape. Get that out of the way. So you see we have a lot of extra wire here. And I think what I'm going to end up doing, I hate cutting pickup leads. So if I were to cut this to length, it would be like right there, and you would only have, you know, 3-4 inches of lead. Let's say you put the pickup in, and you say, wow, this pickup does not sound the way I want it to, and then you go to sell it, and you go to sell it, and it's like, well, you only got 3 inches lead. So anyways, I don't need to explain that any further. So what I like to do is, I don't like to cut, I might cut off an inch or so if I need to, but I like to just basically keep it the same length, and then I'll tie wrap it back here. So let's wire up this bridge pickup. So you see we got it cut there. We're going to strip it back. Now with this one, I want to do is I want to make sure when I strip it, we're going to use, as you see here, the first terminal, the bridge hot, center tap, which is the black and white, and then the ground and the shield are going to go either to one of the black terminals. It doesn't have to go to this black terminal, it can go to any of the black terminals. Plus we have our black terminal here. So I want to make sure I have enough to go to this switch the terminal, as well as if I have to take the shield and the ground to these, I will. So I am going to strip this back a little bit. Probably, I want to go about 1 inch. Now I'm using, my strippers are very old school. I kind of just cut in very lightly. You see how I kind of just pull that apart and just cut a little bit. So I don't want to cut into the wire that's in there, because then you short it out. And then I pull, yeah, see there? Just work it back and forth, you pull, and then I inspect it there. I inspect these wires make sure, let me see if I get it in the shot there, I'm sorry. Make sure that I did not nick any of the wires, because if you nick one of these wires and then plug it in, it could cause a short, or your signal might not be as good. So I'm going to cut that plastic off of there. Once again, using my strippers, I'm going to do about an 1/8 of an inch or so and just kind of pull. Now there, I don't know if you can see it there, but I actually bit too hard. And I only have a couple little strands there. That's not good. So I'm going to snip that off. And I'm just going to just touch and pull. That's a lot better strip. Now I got a lot of the wire there. It's very, see, that's a lot more. I hit it, it doesn't bend over right away. Now I know I got it good. So since that's a black one, and I'm going to cut the same length as the white one. So the white one is the same length as the black one, because they're going to go into the same terminal. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just grabbing the edge of these wires. I'm learning on this wire here. It's easier if you just, what I'm kind of doing is I'm using my cutters to just basically nick the insulation, and then I'm just ripping it off is all I'm really doing. I'm not really cutting into the wire at all. As I did before, I realized that, well, if I do that, I'm basically going to just cut too much wire off. So I don't want to do that, so I'm going to do the same here. That one there, I didn't get enough of it, and it kind of just grabbed the tip of it, so I'm going to try it again. Oh, cut it too far that time. Yep, there we go. Okay, the black and the white right here. You can see it there. So I'm going to put these in terminal 2, and then I'm going to put the red one in the first one. So let's do that. Take over here. See how much easier this is? This would be kind of a pain if that volume pot was right there. Just going to snug it up a little bit. See, I'm holding onto the terminal now. I'm just going to twist. Don't push down, you twist. Get a good grip on it and just twist. That's all you have to do. I'm just going to go through now and hit each one. Each terminal, just snug it down. All right, so I'm going to route these this way. Or if they do have cutouts, you just want to get it to where there's like a notch here. You can get it through there. You don't want it all bundled up underneath one pickup, because then when you go to adjust it, it's going to be kind of a pain. So you don't want that either. So that's good. Cut this off. If you don't have a tie wrap, you have tape, or heck, in the old days, I used to use masking tape. I've opened up some old vintage guitars from like the 40s and stuff, and they just had old school masking tape in there. I think now let's get our volume pot in. Now that we're all, so this is kind of I think we got enough there. No, we might have a little too much. Let me see what we have here. Oh, we got just enough. Look at that. So grab the washer. Yeah, there we go. So these are open and wrench. All right, so let's hook up our switch wires now. So we have the black, it's going to go to ground. We have the red, it's going to go to the input of the volume pot. And the second one, we're going to use our red jumper to go over to the tone pot. And then with the ground terminal, we're going to jumper between. So let's do that. Let's take the black wire. I'm going to slide it underneath this, just to do that. Just kind of get it out of the way. Pretty much the length is just fine, I think. I might just leave it like that. Maybe I'll trim it back. Why not? Trim it back. Yeah, I'm going to trim it about 1 inch off. You don't have to. I'm going to on this one, just because I can. Make it look a little neater. Twist the ends together there a little bit. Feed it back through again. go. Put it in there. Okay, we're going to grab one of the ground end of this ground terminal and put it in there with it. There we go. Tighten it up. Sorry if my hands are in the way, but there we go. Ground terminal is plugged in there. Might as well put this one. Let's see, it's going to go from here. It's going to go over to the tone pot. Tighten it up. Loosen it up, tighten it up now. So it's going into the same terminal with the ground cap. Now, we got the red wire, which is going to go from the switch. It's going to go into first the left lug of the volume pot where the cap is attached. So take this one. So I'm going to try to fish under again. Plus, when you kind of put it underneath everything, it kind of weaves it in, and then that way it kind of leaves it to where it's not getting pinched when you try to put the pickguard onto the guitar. It should go in a little bit easier. You don't have to worry about all the wires kind of jumping out from underneath the pickguard. There we go. So our volume pot's wired up. Well, not quite. We got one more lead to do, don't we? That's got to go from... So we got this red wire now. Let's go from here over to the tone pot. So this one can go to, basically it can go to either one of these terminals because we got a jumper in there, which in this system, we actually put the jumper in for you since it's Terminator EVO. Your system, you may not have, depending on what system it is. We don't put the jumper in with every system. It's just too much. So it's something that you can easily do. Just cut a piece, snip it, strip both ends, and slide it in there. So make sure you look for that. Make sure that jumper's in there. I'm going to loosen up this one. Slide it in. Sometimes when they won't slide in when they have a wire on it. Just kind of push down on the wire like that. And now try it. And there it goes. Sometimes little twists, you know, make it counterclockwise and make it kind of... I'm going to hit all these now. All these terminals on this one. There we go. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to cut this one to length. Twist it a little bit. Put it in the red terminal there. There we go. Make sure no stray wires are popping out. So we're on a 500K side. You can go to the 250K. You know, our systems are designed, you can go 500K, 250K on these pods. You can change your tone caps, use whatever tone cap you want to use. It's all up to you. You know, there's no rules. That's what rock and roll's all about, right? No rules. Make it up. Do what you think sounds best. If you want to wire humbuckers to 250K, damn it, wire them to 250K. You want to use a 47 mic cap, do it. If you want to use a 1 microfarad cap, do it. So I think we're pretty much wired up, with the exception of the output jack. So I'm just going to wire it in right now. So we're going to take this one. So if you can see here, the output jack, the red lead, output lead goes to the same lead as the tone pot and this jumper. So really, you could attach this wire to any of these locations. You could attach to this terminal, you could attach to this terminal over here, this is wire jumping across it, or you could attach to this green one if you wanted to. Whatever's, you know, easiest for you. The same thing with the black lead coming off here. You could attach it to this ground terminal, you can attach this ground terminal. Anywhere there's a black terminal, you can attach that. The main thing is that all the components are interconnected with the black wire. So you got a ground connecting each one. So I'm gonna put this output jack wire to this red. Did I get out of the picture there? I'm sorry. Sorry if my hands went away. So I wired it to that red there. I'll take this one. I'm just gonna go right into here. There we go, we're all set. We're done. So this would be actually in the guitar itself. So these would be coming through the cavity, and you'd wire them up to there. So I think, what do we need to do now? Let's test it. All right, so I plugged in my amplifier. It's plugged in here. I got this little line 6 relay G10. This is pretty cool, I like this. My amp is in the other room. So the first thing I want to do is, let's just, where's the little ass screwdriver at? There it is. So, hey, we got some noise there. So that's a bridge pickup. We're in a bridge position. Good deal. So now I want to tap on it. Look at the volume goes down. That's what I want to hear. Now let's do the tone pot. It's getting muffled, getting darker. Good deal. So we know the tone and the volume work. Let's go position 2. That one's hot. The middle's hot. Notice this coil. See, there's still a little bit of, I don't know if you can hear it on the video. Still a little sound. See, there's sound here, and there's some here. Now what you're hearing is basically when you tap on this, what you're hearing is this coil picking up you tapping on here. Now some pickups are going to be a lot louder than others. This one here is noticeably different, but I've had them where they were, wow, they couldn't even tell there was much of a difference, but there definitely were different. Now the middle pickup by itself, position 2. You know, just for kicks, I like to do the volume and tone again. From a circuit standpoint, it doesn't make sense why it wouldn't work, but I just do it anyways, just to make sure. Now you hear, that's what I was talking about before. They're a lot closer in sound. This one still is noticeably brighter. So, because that coil is split, we're in position 4, so that now we're gonna have full. So we're not really hearing the treble boost, and we're not going to, because it's just, first of all, you need an amplifier that basically has a 12-inch or bigger speaker, maybe a 10-inch speaker, maybe depending on how you set it. I had a tech call me and said, hey, it wasn't working, and then started chatting with them, realized they had it on the bench, and their bench amp had an 8-inch speaker in it. Well, the 8-inch speaker is not going to notice this, the lows that this is cutting. It's not going to be registered on an 8-inch speaker. So you know, depending on your rig, it's going to be different on how this sounds. Because if you have a rig with a lot of bottom end, chances are you're going to notice this. But if you have a rig that's really brighter sounding amp and pedal, you know, you may not hear it as much. But so it's going to vary based on how you have your amp set up and your pedal board. But I think we're done here. I think there's only one last thing to do here. Let's see here. Yeah. There we go. All right, so now we're ready to drop it into the guitar. So one thing, most guitars, you have plenty of clearance. Some customers have mentioned that on certain Ibanez's, gems specifically, I haven't heard anything else about any other guitars. Actually, we even had this in the S-type, which is a very, very thin body, and we've had no issues there. But with this push-pull pod, it seems like there's certain gems, especially made around 99, 2000, I think it's 99 and primarily pops up, where there's not enough clearance for this volume pot, and you may have to take a little bit of wood out. So just a little heads up on that. Let's just measure it. So it looks like it's about 1.25 inches. Yeah, here we're at 1 inch. The switch is always going to be about 1.5 inches, 1 3/8, or 3/16 or 5/16 rather. Now, one thing when you get it in there and you get it all screwed in, and you got everything, you got the output jack wired up, the bridge ground attached. One thing, now you're ready to plug it in. When you plug it in, just Steve, when he on his EVO and Flow, all his guitars, one thing he likes is the pickups as close to the strings as possible. So when you get it set up and you got your action set up right, take your carefully raise your pickups to where your humbuckers to where they're as close as to the string without touching, and as well as vibration, because you don't want it to vibrate, because when you pluck it, it's going to vibrate. So if you play harder, you might want to move it a little bit further away, but Steve I has his as close as possible without touching when he's playing. He drops the middle pickup down. One thing he does, because his pick gets caught on these edges, so he does drop the middle pickup down, so that'll be a lot lower than the humbuckers. So anyways, there you have it. Terminator EVO, MadhatterGuitarProducts.com. Visit us at MadhatterGuitarProducts.com. Find your Terminator system today and hear what your guitar is missing.